I'm Gabe Joel, and this is Comic Smack, your weekly daily all the time, anytime comic show where I give you your fix, everything you need to know from the world of comic books and superheroes. And on today's show, we're taking a closer look at Amazing Spider-Man Annual Issue number 42. What happens when a ghost from Peter Parker's past returns with a mystery for him to solve? Well, let's hop on in together and find out, shall we? So, as the comic opens, we check on in with the Enforcers, Ox, Fancy Dan, and Montana, but not the real original Enforcers, mind you, the clones created by Ben Reilly during Clone Conspiracy. Granted, the clones are genetically similar in every way to the originals and also possess their memory, so for all intents and purposes, they are those people back from the dead, but you know, whatever. I bring this up, of course, because it's actually important for this next part right here. A mystery man hires the Enforcers to track down Betty Brant because you see, her ex, Ned Leeds, had also been brought back as a clone. He didn't survive the end of the Clone Conspiracy story, but before he bit it, he called Betty with an important piece of information regarding an old case he had been working on. It wasn't very much to go on, only a single word: Blood Creek. This phone call from a man that she believed to be dead clearly shook Betty to her very core, and because of that, she's running around New York City looking into all manner of psychics with the help of Peter Parker. Peter thinks the whole thing is bogus. Not because he doesn't believe extraordinary things can happen in Marvel's New York. In fact, he saw the Ned Leeds clone before he turns to dust. It's just, he doesn't want Betty wasting her money on psychics. When there are so many people who actually are psychic and who actually can communicate with the dead and not charge you an arm and a leg for it either. Whatever this Blood Creek thing is, it runs deep. Not only the Enforcers and their employer are after it, but a few other parties as well seem to be stalking Betty from the shadows. With the help of Glory Grant, Betty is eventually able to riddle out that Blood Creek is in reference to a famous battle during the American Revolutionary War. In fact, it was such a famous battle, there's a big statue commemorating it in the park where her and Ned used to eat lunch. Only upon closer inspection, Betty discovers that this whole thing doesn't add up. There's no actual historical accounts of a battle at Blood Creek. Peter looks into the story too and eventually discovers that someone out there has been trying really hard to doctor as much information about this battle as humanly possible. The two decide to join forces to get to the bottom of this, both in memory of their friend Ned Leeds and also because breaking this will be a huge story in its own right. Their quest takes them to Empire University, where Peter Parker's Parker luck starts acting up right away, with the security guard being really mad at him because she was a former investor in Parker Industries. Ooh, ouch. The Enforcers are there too to meet our heroes off at the pass. Apparently they too have the same idea to check out the university. This means Peter is forced to suit up and join the battle, which he absolutely does, managing to make short work of Ox even though the other two managed to escape. Now Betty did manage to find some pretty interesting information about that statue to commemorate that battle that doesn't exist. Turns out it used millions if not billions of dollars of city money. With Spider-Man's help, they decide to break into City Hall to see if they can't find any original paperwork on the statue's construction. This is made all the more difficult by the fact that Wilson Fisk the Kingpin is currently mayor right now. Go check out my Daredevil reviews for more information on that. What's really funny is that Fisk not only knows about this Blood Creek conspiracy, but even he wants no part of it. While Spider-Man dukes it out with Fisk's goons, Betty ends up running right into the man that was stalking her, a dude by the name of Prescott. Apparently he was Ned's contact when he was still alive, a city planner type, who accidentally ended up stumbling into a massive conspiracy involving the statue and the Maggia. The two then end up quickly getting captured by the Maggia so the bad guy can explain what's going on. Apparently the secret underboss of the Undermob was the one who had the statue constructed in the first place. Why was it so damn expensive? Well, because it's made out of a bunch of space-age alloys that once hit with the right electronic pulse will explode. This was essentially the Maggia's way of holding New York City and those in the know hostage with the threat of an explosion deep in their own city. Now the bad guy though is looking to blow the statue anyway just to kill our heroes and sever all ties to it. Spider-Man rushes on in to save his friends. We get a cool action scene involving an underground train, and you know how much of a sucker I am for an underground train. No, not a subway, an actual real deal train. Batty McMaggia tries to blow the statue, but he ends up getting held up by a friendly hobo who's been hanging out around the periphery of the story, and eventually Betty. He gets taken down, the good guys win the day. Peter and Betty write a wonderful story talking about Ned Leeds and how he cracked this case from beyond the grave, and ultimately everyone ends up leaving with a nice warm happy feeling inside. In fact, we see that that hobo was no regular hobo
Lobo at all. He was actually Ned Leeds in disguise. But was it the real Ned Leeds or just a clone? We don't know. So that was Amazing Spider-Man Annual issue number 42, everybody. And yes, you heard me right, 42. We're even back to original numbering for annuals now. Overall, it was a fun, if not particularly substantial story. I like to see Spider-Man stretching his detective muscles and trying to solve a particularly complicated case. Even if in the end, Betty ultimately did all the hard work. Heck, this story arguably does more with the concept of the perfected Ben Reilly Jackal-era clones than any other story before it. Sure, Clone Conspiracy wasn't great, but if it means I can see fun oldie-time characters like the Enforcers, yeah, I'm down with that. Beyond that, not really sure what else to say about this book. It does what it sets out to do, and it does it out pretty well. It won't change your life or anything. I wouldn't call it required reading, but I would still give it a 7 out of 10. So that's Amazing Spider-Man Annual, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, be sure to take a closer look at some of these other videos I've been working on. Then you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at CabeJoel, so you always know what I'm doing next. And if you're feeling in a supportive mood, please by all means check out my Patreon page down in the description. Patrons get exclusive access to videos and content before anyone else, and you can do so for as little as $1 a month. That's $12 a year. And until next time, everyone, this has been CabeJoel. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.